You all know how the Republicans have been basically trying to pretend like coronavirus isn't like a thing. It just doesn't exist. And if we just pretend it's not there, like the freaking ostrich, stick your head in the ground, pretend it's not there, and maybe everything will go away. You know how, those 150 dead bodies piled behind the White House isn't really, they haven't been disappearing with that sort of idea. And Trump's even been having to even wrap in some sort of, hey, like actually coronavirus is a problem into his rhetoric. It's actually been having a lot of effects, and Capitol Hill is no safe space when it comes to people actually getting hit with corona. And a lot of these Republicans who've been pretending that it doesn't exist have actually been suffering some consequences. Things come back around, and the Lord works in mysterious ways. All right. Herman Cain, actually, if you remember that guy, he's the dude who used to run. He tried to run for president. He went to Trump's Tulsa rally. He actually got coronavirus, and today he died. Sad, but I don't know what to do with a 70-year-old man who spent his last days telling people that coronavirus is fake, then dying in the hospital because of it. Okay, so with that being said. Yes, he did get it from the Tulsa rally. He went to the Tulsa rally. He took a picture with a bunch of other black people who were there, and then he instantly got it and then just died. He just dropped dead. Today, actually, sad, but we don't wish for people's deaths here. But what can you do if you don't listen to anything? No one can help you. And that is not the last Republican who's gotten COVID, because Louis Gomer is going to be the topic of today's story. Louis Gomer refused to wear a mask. Here, he doesn't even have a mask. He just brought a bandana to put over his face so people don't yell at him as much. And he takes it off the moment he gets time. He literally rips it off like it's a freaking head, like it's a face hugger, He's like, get this thing away from me. He's a piece of garbage, okay? He's a Texas Republican, and he spent a very long time talking about how much he hates masks. I went through this article, and I found that a lot of very interesting things. For one, many Republican House members tested positive for corona. And recently, after Herman Cain died and after Gomer tested positive, Pelosi said that while you're on the House floor, you have to wear a mask. And if you don't abide by the rules, you can be kicked out. Is the one who went to his office after getting tested positive? We'll get right to that. So Gomer was someone who he just crawls around the halls, no mask whatsoever, doesn't care. But actually a really interesting thing that I learned is that all House members are their own employers. I knew this for a little bit, but I didn't know how deep it really went. They're completely their own employers, and for a lot of the pandemic that's been going on, many House members and many senators have been running at about half capacity or less when it comes to their office. Okay, because they all have an office at the all 538 of them have an office on Capitol Hill, and all 538 of them have a staff. And chiefs of staff, campaign managers, people who work the phones, people who work the papers, people who call, who take calls from news organizations and constituents and stuff. Lots of people that they hire, and lots of people are there. And lots of these Republican senators are using their office as bait to try to pretend that the coronavirus isn't happening. Gomer himself implemented basically a policy in his office saying that you can't wear a mask. You get berated if you wear a mask. They tell you to take it off. They tell you to pretend it's fake. And not only that, he has his office running at full capacity. So all, I think, 8 people are in his one office, plus 2 interns are all there not wearing masks. And if you are wearing a mask, you get berated and belittled. Okay. You just get harassed at work if you come with a mask trying to protect yourself. Okay. And with this being said, obviously he got coronavirus, and he actually tested positive, then flew back on a busy flight from I think Dallas back to Washington with a 74-year-old lawmaker who now has to self-quarantine because she doesn't know whether or not Gomer gave her coronavirus. 74-year-old woman. Okay? And with that being said, Lots of people are now trying to say that we should have stricter laws and everything. But what's even more egregious about this is that Gomer didn't even tell his staff that he had coronavirus. His staff found out that he tested positive after they read the article. After that article that we just read, after that came out, he gathered his staff around in person in the office, breathing down their necks, and told them that he tested positive. All right. And actually, the person who wrote the article got this email from someone on his staff. After we reported about Gomer that tested positive, we got an email from an aide. Jake, thank you for letting our office know that Louis tested positive for coronavirus. When you write your story, can you include the fact that Louis requires full staff to be in the office, including 3 interns? My bad. I thought it was just 2. 3 interns, so that we could be an example of how to safely open up. Be an example to America on how to open up safely. When probing the office, you might want to ask how often we were berated for wearing a mask. He told them in person, to their faces, that he had corona, with none of them wearing masks, with none of them having protection, with him berating his staff for even trying to protect themselves. And this has got a lot of the congressional aides and things like that, people who aren't the lawmakers, and this here they call them the underclass, but janitors, legislative chiefs of staffs, press assistants, members of Congress, and other people working in the halls who aren't the lawmakers are now scared for their lives, because a lot of these Republican lawmakers are walking around trying to pretend nothing's happening and using them as an example to try to say that it's safe to open up, putting their lives at risk, to pretending nothing's going on, while they all have to suffer and not know whether or not they have COVID. So this is where we are right now. This is how bad things have gotten for the Republicans, that they're now trying to even pretend that that they're like the deaths that are happening on their side of the aisle and their like positive testing just means nothing. They're just trying to barrel through it and not even tell people. This happened in a state legislature. Actually, I think about 10 of the legislators, I think it was like a state senate. I think about 10 of the Republicans tested positive, and they didn't tell the Democrats. They controlled the House, so they forced them to come in. They forced them to work in person. They like sat next to them the entire time. And the Democrats had no clue that any of them tested positive. And then they found out through a news report, and this is what we're at. So this is where we are. Absolutely disgusting. But I don't expect much from these people anyways.